I will tell you right off the bat that reviewing this film presented a serious challenge for me. And honestly, it's one of the main reasons I decided to pursue it. I was a little afraid of it because it's a difficult film to break down. But I think it's important that if we want to get better at something, it's important to stretch our abilities and do difficult things. So, the reason that I say that for me, it's a difficult movie to review is because it's not your typical film. It doesn't have an obvious plot. I mean, it's sequential, but it doesn't really seem to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. It was definitely an artistic venture, which I find enjoyable most of the time, but I have a hard time describing why and breaking these more artistic films down. Like, it's not clear cut. It's not some action film or thriller or romantic comedy even with a clear and obvious narrative or plot. But I'm here now, and I'm going to do my best to tell you what I thought of it and why. So, first off, this is a low-budget film, $3.5 million. And it's damn near 3 hours long. So I'll just read you the synopsis here. It's directed by Andrea Arnold. Star Sasha Lane, an adolescent girl from a troubled home, runs away with a traveling sales crew that drives across the American Midwest selling subscriptions door to door. Finding her feet in this gang of teenagers, one of whom is Jake, Shia Labeouf, she soon gets into the group's lifestyle of hard partying nights, law-bending days, and young love. Alright, so it's a coming-of-age story. It's a story of disaffected youths. Kids who fell through the cracks in various parts of the country and who are now in their early 20s maybe, and just trying to figure shit out. And it's a movie that it features heavily Shia LaBeouf. And that last fact had me all in from the word go, because so far I have not been let down by a single Shia LaBeouf film. He seems to pick interesting projects, and so it's kind of a litmus test for me. If Shia has anything to do with it, it's probably worth a watch. But much like Nymphomaniac by Lars von Trier, which I enjoyed very much, this featured Shia LaBeouf, but wasn't really about Shia LaBeouf's character. It had a female lead, Sasha Lane, and I think she nailed it. I've never heard of this actress before, and after looking it up, this was her first film. I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen her in anything and I don't know if she's been in anything since, to be honest. But I thought she was extremely believable in this role as Star. And that's one of the things that really stood out to me in this film, right? Right off the get. The realism in this film was damn near perfect. Just the way the characters interact. It felt extremely realistic. So it starts off, with Star, and it shows her home life. And it ain't so great. And at first, she has these kids tagging along with her, right? And I think at the beginning of the film that they're her kids, she's a very young mother. But no. It ended up being she's taking care of these kids. She's raising these kids, but they're not her kids. They may be her little brothers or sisters. They may be her nieces or nephews. It's not 100% clear, but so when she's thinking about escaping, the life that she has, I was thinking holy shit, she's gonna leave these kids behind? And then they explain that, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, go on, girl, go. So, she gets in with this group of people, and they're selling magazines. Magazines. And I'm pretty sure this was set in the time that it was made. This is a 2016 film. And they made it very clear that no one was buying magazine subscriptions. Like, it was an extremely tough racket. But like I said, the realism in this was what made the film, in my opinion. Like, this is how large groups of people interact. And there was probably like 20 people in this movie, right? All crammed into one of those big, like, 15 passenger vans and like an additional car. But it was just super real. It was like, I've been in plenty of large groups like this, and like, this is really how they interact. You know, they talk over each other. There's many conversations going on at once, overlapping conversations, people jumping into others, you know, seemingly private moments. And then, you know, you've got some people being serious while others are cracking jokes, all happening at the same time. And, you know, then a familiar song comes on and almost everyone joins in the singing, right? It was one of those moments with the entire group in the van that really sucked me in and made me feel like, you know, I'm in this story. I'm all in. And I felt like I was part of this little, you know, band of misfits. It was crazy. It felt like I was there because it felt so realistic. I feel like I had known these people, or at least very similar people to these, in my own life, right? At some point in my life, it just felt very familiar. Okay, that's why I'm saying it seems ultra realistic. Okay, so Star meets Jake, and Jake is like the all-star salesman, right? But remember, these are all misfits. These are all kids, you know, who probably had terrible home lives and were trying to escape it by any means necessary. And they saw this as a way out. Traveling across the country in a van with a bunch of other disaffected youths, right? So remember, he's kind of a fucked up dude. But at first, he's very likable, right? He's very charismatic. What you would think would make a good salesman, right? And so at first you're like, this guy's pretty cool, you know? Like, you see him through her eyes. Like, she's enamored, right? She's falls for him very quickly. And if you've ever known two damaged people in a relationship together, this felt like that. Like, the relationship between the two, basically, you would probably call them the main characters of the film. It felt legitimate. You have these two very damaged people from troubled pasts, you know, one that has extreme commitment issues and insecurities, but wanting deeply to have a connection, and the other who's very dependent, you know, like a codependent, very dependent on the other one, and that's her, you know, the female character has this very, like, she's dependent on his every whim, right? She seemed to hang on every word and action that came from him. Now, something that also made this film feel so, like, realistic, right, was the portrayals of feelings, right? The portrayals of jealousy and spite, vindictiveness, you know, real hurt and genuine affection were all spot on in this film. Like, incredible job by a novice actress, and, in my opinion, one of the most underrated actors of our time. So another thing that made this film, like, feel real was that I didn't particularly love any of the characters, right? And not to say I didn't love the characters as they were written. They were very well written, okay? But as characters, they were all extremely flawed. Like, it'd be hard to characterize any of them. Maybe the main character, right? But you definitely couldn't characterize most of these people as necessarily likable or great people. They were just real human beings, you know, young and inexperienced ones that acted as such. I mean, they played the role perfectly. All of them. even though it wasn't your typical ending, right, your typical resolution to a story, I loved the way this film ended. I loved that in the end, it wasn't about the relationship that she had been chasing throughout the whole film. You know, it was about finding herself. And I love that. I like that in the end, she seemed content and everything, like with everything that had happened, with everything that was happening, you know, she was okay with the fact that the relationship wasn't her saving grace. It was like she realized for herself that it wasn't about him, and that the whole time it had been about her and her journey. I just thought ending it like that, it made it really like a story of self-discovery, right? And of figuring out where you fit in the world. She was happy to have found this group of misfits, and it was all about them, you know? And it seemed like she had lost the focus on her romantic interest that she had been obsessed with throughout the whole movie. You know, all of her emotions tied to it. And now she had just become content and even happy with where she was at the moment. I loved it because this is how life really is. Most of your relationships when you're young, especially, you know, those unhealthy, inexperienced relationships, they don't pan out. And, you know, they tell you a little bit about who you are, but they don't define you. And it becomes just something that you went through, something that you'll always remember, but it has little to do with who you are. Anyway, I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic film. And I thought everyone in it was great. I thought Shia was awesome, as usual, but everyone else was fantastic as well. The real star, though, was Star. Right? The real star was Sasha Lane. It being her first movie, like, she was ridiculously good. She was extremely believable. I thought she really pulled it off. Like, such a fantastic job. Anyway, I don't know if this movie will be for everyone. It's definitely, you know, like I said, it's a coming-of-age story. It's a disaffected youth story. It's definitely got some, you know, some kind of messages of the people that society kind of forgets, you know, the people that fall through the cracks, and the people you don't really think about, you know, and shows you that these are real people, you know, these are real people with genuine, you know, lives and experiences that matter, you know, and feelings. The feelings were like paramount in this story. It was like the emotions were the centerpiece. And I thought it was a really good film. And I'm surprised I hadn't watched it earlier because, you know, usually when I come across a Shia Labeouf film, I watch it. But I'm really glad that I finally sat down and watched this one. Like I said, it's 3 hours. But to me, it flew by. I highly recommend it. Anyway, this is the end of the podcast/video. If you enjoyed this review, I have many on the channel like it, but it's not all that I do here. What I do on this channel is each day I pick a random topic, and it's usually entertainment or, you know, pop culture related, but every once in a while it delves into other stuff, you know, politics, very rarely politics, but, you know, sometimes it's just stuff that's going on, right, in society. Sometimes it's just my take on whatever news story came out that day, and sometimes it's just stories from my own wild youth. So if you're into that sort of thing, if you'd like to get something new every day in your feed, that's what I try to do here. I try to put out something every single day. I'm not perfect, but I definitely make a good go of it. If you can vibe with that, then please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video or podcast, please like it. And if you decide to stick around, if you If you subscribe to the YouTube channel or favorite or follow the podcast, then I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Later.